Please support us on Patreon. More on that at the end of the video. So thank you very much, guys, for coming tonight. Before I begin, I want to assure everyone that we are only recording what I say. When I'm done talking, we'll stop recording and maybe have some more conversation. But there will be no recording of anyone else, just myself. And this is to protect everyone's privacy. Now, some of you may be wondering, why do we need to protect privacy? Everyone has a Facebook. Everyone has pictures of themselves with friends having fun on the internet. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. What's the big deal? Everybody's on the internet. Well, we'll see during what I'm going to say that privacy is important. So I'm just going to talk briefly and then I'll stop and then hopefully we'll engage in conversation. We are horrified by what we see. It is no longer Israel genociding and holocausting Gaza. It is now Israel genociding and holocausting Gaza and Israel escalating into wider war in the Middle East. First, I will talk about what has happened here in Taiwan this past year, focusing on myself because I don't want to speak for others. Then I'll offer my suggestions on what we can do. I am going to name names. I do this not to attack people, but because the international peace movement must be transparent. On Tuesday, 12 March of this year, I went to Kuting MRT where I said loudly, "Free Palestine, ceasefire now." I continued to do so until 7 Taipei police officers literally carried me out of the station. This event was then broadcast on local television, but none of the local television stations here in Taiwan interviewed me about it. In fact, we'll see that when you speak up for Palestine, you will be silenced. Keone Everington, reporter for Taiwan News, who sometimes appears on television, asked me for a statement regarding my one-person protest. I told him that I'm not willing to give him a statement, but I'll give him an interview. The people of Palestine are not just a soundbite. Mr. Everington never interviewed me. There is one YouTuber who did interview me. He also interviewed Mr. Everington. I talked about my protest and Palestine. After the interviewer, who mostly does travel vlogs, interviewed me, he told me that he will not put the video on his channel because the YouTube algorithm would hurt his channel if he posted my interview. This YouTuber then blocked me on Facebook. Additionally, the Taipei Times, the sister paper of the green newspaper Liberty Times, and Taiwan's only English language newspaper with a daily printed edition, stopped printing my letters. Before, they did print my letters, but then they stopped. And later, the Taipei Times did print a story about Palestine, but the story was so short and uninformative that they increased the font size to fill the page. In June of this year, the Taipei-based Lung Ying Tai Cultural Foundation held a free lecture on peace. Palestine was not mentioned once until I brought it up during Q&A. I also brought up how the media isn't talking to me. The moderator, a local Taiwan professor said that there was plenty of media at the event. For the record, the media at that event did not talk about Palestine, and they did not talk to me. It is clear that Taiwan mainstream media does not care about Palestine. I will return to this point later. One person doing one protest is clearly not enough. So in the days and months after my Putin protest, I attended 2 meetings organized by Amnesty International Taiwan. They have a Mandarin language group and an English language group. I attended the English language groups because my Mandarin is not fluent. At both events, I said that we in Taiwan, both Taiwanese and foreigners, need civil disobedience, such as shutting down the airport in Taoyuan, shutting down Taipei main station, and shutting down the intersection of Roosevelt and Heping. However, I'm not an organizer. That's not my skill set. Question: where is Amnesty International now? To my knowledge, their English language group has done nothing. Nothing. They have done nothing since we have entered the 2nd year of the atrocities of the Zionist monsters. Monsters. At a different event, I publicly challenged Professor Moore Sobel to a debate. In an email, he later told me that he doesn't like to debate. Professor Moore Sobel, a Zionist, teaches debate at Tom Kong University. So if you're a student at Tom Kong University, do not take any of Moore Sobel's classes. In fact, you could ask him, Professor, why won't you debate Andres Chang? And now, returning to the media not caring about Palestine, I decided that I would print a weekly newspaper here in Taipei, and that I would hand it out to people in person every Sunday afternoon at Taipei main station. I didn't post it online because everyone, including myself, has a Facebook, YouTube channel, etc. So I wanted it to be real. From March of this year to September of this year, I was at Taipei main station every Sunday afternoon passing out the newsletter. I stopped printing the newsletter because, as I said earlier, Israel has escalated from genociding and holocausting Gaza into genociding and holocausting Gaza, and Israel bringing the wider Middle East into war. But this newsletter brought me into conflict with the Palestine Solidarity in Taiwan Facebook group. I was a member of this group, but for some reason, they never invited me into their corresponding line group. They also called me a terrorist for doing what I did in Kuting MRT. When I asked them to debate me on this point of terrorism, they refused. Then, according to another member, Hanya Peng, people in this group began spreading lies about me. They said that my newsletter didn't exist and that I was only using it to make money. Yeah, supporting Palestine, that's a great way to make money. So I told Hanya Peng, you're spreading lies about me. That's illegal here in Taiwan. That's defamation. And it's punishable by up to 200,000 NTD and 2 years in prison. What did Hanya Peng do? She blocked me on Facebook. In other words, I accused Hanya Peng of a crime, and instead of defending herself, she ran away. Hanya Peng looks guilty. Later, I messaged another person in the Palestine Solidarity in Taiwan Facebook group, Duha Abdel Jaber, telling Duha my legal situation with Hanya Peng. Duha told me to stop messaging him. I then asked Duha, can you please tell me who is spreading lies about me? I won't say who you are. Duha said nothing. So, not only is the media in Taiwan not talking to me, not only is another pro-Palestine group spreading lies about me, but then in October, 2 months ago, Facebook locked me out of my Facebook account. I had to make a new one. Did Israel lock me out? I don't know. Did Palestine Solidarity in Taiwan Facebook group lock me out? I don't know. But I do suspect that Gmail is now trying to lock me out as well. And last month, I experienced glitches with my American ATM card, my local Easy card, and even my passport when I took a recent trip to Japan. I have no evidence, but I believe Israel is targeting me. Another thing I want to say about the Palestine Solidarity in Taiwan Facebook group is that they don't like that I was asking for donations to support my personal activist work, but they also didn't like civil disobedience. Well, if you don't raise money and you don't do civil disobedience, then how will anything get done? Palestinians are fighting for their survival as a people and their right to exist. They are being burned alive. We have to do something. The last group I'll mention is the Taipei International Christian Church. I know there might be many churches with similar names, but I was involved with this particular church and I asked them to speak out against what Israel is doing. They said no. And then they kicked me out. Okay, so finally, what can we do? First, who is we? We are Taiwanese people in Taiwan, in the diaspora, and foreigners living in Taiwan. So far this year, we have performed marches and other police-approved protests. And there are more than one pro-Palestine groups in Taipei, Taichung, and Kaohsiung. There is also at least one pro-Taiwan independence political party in Taiwan that is also pro-Palestine. So the first thing that can be done is that these groups can all get together for a large meeting to plan how to combine our efforts to bring peace in the Middle East. What else? If you're a Christian, ask your church leader to speak out against Israel. If your church leader refuses to do so, then perhaps you should consider joining a different church. What else? I mentioned marches and other police-approved protest activities. I mentioned free lectures. All of these are good and necessary. In addition, there is something else that is good and necessary, but Taiwan isn't doing it. Civil disobedience. We must confront power. We must confront the police. We must get arrested. We must demand that the president of Taiwan call on Israel to stop making war. Because if President Lai can't do that, then he's not the president of the free, independent country of Taiwan. He is just America's bitch. Students and others in North America and Europe are getting arrested for Palestine. Even in the Philippines, where there is less political freedom than in Taiwan, there are crowds of pro-Palestine protesters pushing up against crowds of police, and then the police push back. I know a lot of people are afraid to confront the police, but if I'm there with you, you can all say, it's Andres. He made me do it. I'm a white man with a US passport. The police here will do nothing to me. If they deport me for just being politically active, then they're not behaving like Taiwan. They're behaving like China. So I really hope, in the name of peace and protecting the people of Palestine from genocide and Holocaust, that all of us in Taiwan finally embrace sustained civil disobedience. Well, first of all, you have AIPAC going to Taiwan. You have Taiwan giving money, or I don't know if they have yet, or they're just still talking about it, but they were talking about giving money to Israel to build a hospital for Israelis in one of the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. These Israeli settlements are illegal under international law. Why is Taiwan doing this in the first place, number one? And number two, why is Taiwan doing this while Israel is committing a genocide? And number three, why is President Lai, William Lai, silent on the genocide? As far as I know, he has never once said Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Taiwan does not support this genocide. Why hasn't he even said that, the bare minimum? He hasn't said anything, as far as I know, about the current genocide that we're 2 years into. We just passed the 2-year mark, and he hasn't said anything. Why?
So some of the arguments that I've heard in Taiwan is that the reason we should side with Israel is because Palestine is China's ally and Israel is the United States ally, and Israel has been speaking up for Taiwan in the past 2 years on the international stage. Therefore, we should support Israel in return. What do you think about that argument?
If Taiwan supports Israel just because Israel is Taiwan's ally, then Taiwan is saying we support genocide and it is okay to kill or remove all of the people of Gaza from Gaza. And therefore, Taiwan is not this beautiful little human rights loving, democracy rights loving, freedom of speech loving country standing up to the big bully of China. And it's a complete contradiction of what Taiwan claims that it is. And getting back to myself personally, why was I denied entry? Why am I banned from Taiwan?
That's the question that I'm about to ask.
Yeah.
So you don't think racism in Taiwan isn't related to the fact that Taiwan tends to support Israel more than Palestine?
I don't think so. I think that's really separate. I think that's geopolitics. You know, every country has racism and every country also has geopolitics. I hope that Taiwan is not going to become racist against or Islamophobic against Islam the way other countries are. Like, have you seen the Lord of the Rings movies?
Sure.
Yeah, well, there's this Iranian professor, I forget his name, but he put it perfectly. He said, Israel and the West, they think that Israel and the West is the Shire. And they think that Palestine and the entire Muslim world is Mordor. And so I hope Taiwan does not start thinking that way also.
Gotcha. Let's talk about your recent denial of entry. When did the incident happen, and how do you found out that you're rejected to entry into Taiwan?
This happened about 4 months ago. So I believe that would be August. Actually, wait a minute. Let me look at my passport. I happen to have my passport right here. And dun, 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 dun. Have you been to Japan, by the way, Pei?
It's been years. Not since after I was 15. And yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, on oh gosh, the date is so the stamp is not very clear. Let's see, not departed. Deep. Okay, hold on. July. It was around July. In July, first of all, I have spent a lot of time in Taiwan. I have come and gone from Taiwan a lot. I'm a US passport holder, which means I can enter Taiwan 90 days visa free. And every time I go to Taiwan, nothing happens. I give them my passport and they don't even ask me any questions. They just let me in. After, they take my picture, take my fingerprints on the scanner, and they let me in. They don't ask me any questions. Well, in July of this year, I was at the airport in Japan. I got my boarding pass. I went through security. I was at the gate waiting for my flight. And then the airline told me, Taiwan immigration says you cannot enter. And I said, why not? And they said, they didn't tell us. So I had to go back to the hotel. I called Taiwan immigration, and a man on the phone told me, for personal reasons, I cannot enter Taiwan for personal reasons. He didn't get any more specific than that. I would like to know, who did I talk to? What is his first name? What is his last name? What does he look like? Whose decision was it to ban me from Taiwan, and why? And I believe it is because I am a pro-Palestine activist. Because shortly after that happened, 2 Japanese tourists were deported from Taiwan because they said they were at a rally where that was a pro-China rally, basically saying Taiwan is part of China. They were deported. Where is their freedom of speech? Look, you live in Taipei, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you probably have seen, I won't say where because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I mean, that's how authoritarian Taiwan has now become. I'm afraid to get specific because I don't want to get people in trouble. But there's a building, probably more than one, with China's flag on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So Taiwanese people have freedom of speech in Taiwan, but tourists do not?
Mm-hmm.
That's not freedom. So after this happened to me, those 2 Japanese tourists were deported. Then it was reported that Taiwan was considering giving money to build that hospital I mentioned earlier. I don't know if they've actually done that. And then now APAC is visiting Taiwan. So it seems to me that somebody in Israel or in the United States told somebody in Taiwan, hey, don't let Andres back in. Don't let Andres Chang back in.
Mm-hmm. I do need to see some kind of denial of entry documents to report on this. Is it possible that I can provide some kind of paper trail for me on that front?
Let me look, and I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, much appreciated. I believe you, but I just want to be certain. It is kind of strange because they said the reason why they deported those 2 Japanese influencers was because of what I think they quoted national security reasons and public order. But that is under the understanding that those 2 Japanese influencers were, talking about issues related to China. And of course, China is a very sensitive national security issue in Taiwan. But in your case, I can't really see why they denied your entry. Or at least, if they do deny your entry, they should provide some kind of reason and cite some kind of law without, if they wanted to do that. So that is very unusual. Now, let's go to APAC. So, APAC recently sent a historical envoy to Taiwan that included all of its top officials and 200 more representatives to Taiwan. What's your reaction when you hear that? Were you shocked, or what was your reaction? And what do you think about the visit?
It just further lends, well, first of all, I'm nodding my head hearing you say this, and it just strengthens my belief and certainly adds credibility to my thesis that they have banned me because I am a pro Palestine activist. And it is so ridiculous. APAC, the American Israeli Political Action Committee. What is this American and Israeli political group doing in Taiwan? Isn't political activity illegal for tourists and foreigners in Taiwan? What are these people doing here? They're not called the Taiwan Israeli Political Action Committee or the American and Taiwan Political Action Committee. The American Israel Political Action Committee. What is going on here? Why are they sending so many people to Taiwan? Why? Why? This makes no sense. On the surface level, aren't these two different issues? America, Israel, and Palestine, isn't that a different issue than America, Taiwan, and China? I'm going to say something that I am afraid of, but I am afraid that America and Israel are going to start a war with China, and they are going to involve Taiwan into it. Because here's the truth. The truth is, certainly before October 7th and before and now, the facts on the ground is that America, Taiwan, and China are actually friends. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is there are lots of Americans who live and work in China. There are a lot of Americans who live and work in Taiwan. There are a lot of Taiwanese who live and work in China. There are a lot of Chinese who live and work in Taiwan. And everybody in the world buys the products that China makes because China makes everything. China is the factory of planet Earth, of humanity. Israel is desperate. They're so desperate, they're involving Taiwan. 200 people in Taiwan. Taiwan is nowhere near the Middle East. What are they doing this for? They're doing this because they are losing. They are losing the narrative. They are losing support. People in America in record numbers no longer support Israel because this is a live streamed genocide. Nobody has the right to say this is not a genocide. Nobody has the right to say I am neutral on the genocide. No, it is a genocide. It is live streamed. We are all watching it on our phones. And we do not have the right to do nothing. At the very least, we have to say something. We have to say something. You know, and I've been to meetings in the pro-Palestine community, and I've told them, guys, I'm not an organizer. That's not my strength. But when are Taiwanese people going to start acting like people all over the world and start going to the streets protesting against what Israel is doing? You know, I don't like saying this. It hurts my feelings because I like Taiwan very much, which is why I've spent so much time there. But for them to support Israel, I feel like my girlfriend or my wife or my friend has done something terrible, has revealed it to me. And I'm just like, I can't be your friend anymore if you're going to do this. I can't be your spouse anymore if you're going to do this. I can't be your boyfriend anymore if you're going to do this. And I like Taiwan very much. So at the very least, I have to tell Taiwan, look, I'm telling you this because I like you very much. What you're doing is wrong. You cannot support Israel right now. You should not be accepting all these APAC people. And who are they meeting with? These APAC people?
I want to come back to a point that you kind of brush over a little bit.
Okay, before you do, let me say, who are these APAC people meeting with? Are they meeting with President Lai? And if they are, what are they going to talk about? Is that going to be made public? Just like when Dick Cheney met President Tsai, what did they talk about? Okay, so go ahead.
So, yeah, this is actually the point that I want to ask you. So, like earlier you said, you point to the fact that APAC is an America-Israel committee, not an America-Taiwan committee or an Israel-Taiwan committee. Now, by common sense, you'd think that American-Israel Action Committee, its interest would be focused in the Middle East. What do you think is APAC's interest in Taiwan?
They're desperate for allies. They want as many allies as possible. Israel wants to control the Middle East, and America wants to control everywhere else. North America, South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. I am afraid that America wants a war with China, and they will want Taiwan and Japan and South Korea to help them in that war with China, because it looks like eventually China will be the largest economy in the world and America will be number two. And America will not, hold on. America does not want that to happen.
Sorry, that's the American interest in Taiwan, right? Like, we kind of know that, like, there are traces for that, for the American interest in Taiwan and America wanting to take a more militaristic stance in this area. We've seen that before, but what do you think is Israel's interest in this part of the world? Because AIPAC is not just American organization, it's also Israeli organization as well, or at least it represents the Israeli interest. What do you think is Israel's interest in Taiwan? And also, you mentioned that Israel is desperate for diplomacy around the world. And so in September, Israel has already sent a Knesset delegate to Taiwan. Now, why is that not enough, that they have to send AIPAC to Taiwan as well?
I don't know for sure. It looks to me like an act of desperation. The ordinary people all over the world, they know that Israel is committing genocide and Holocaust in Gaza. So they are not supporting Israel anymore. So Israel is just desperate for allies. Maybe they fear of just losing one more. And maybe they fear that, you know what, Taiwan is maybe one of our last friends. So we've got to do something. We've got to at least maintain Taiwan. Or it could be that the United States is using Israel to further its proverbial grip on Taiwan. I mean, can you imagine what would happen if Taiwan told Israel and America, hey, we're not going to buy weapons from either of you anymore. All these factories we have where we make semiconductors and microchips, well, we're going to turn one of them into an indigenous weapons factory and we're going to make our own weapons. I mean, do you think America and Israel would let Taiwan get away with that? America has a history of betraying its allies and then overthrowing them. Just one example, Saddam Hussein was an American ally, and then we destroyed his country.
Well, I think, yeah, I got enough materials for the interview. Are there more things that you want to say related to your activism regarding to Palestine and regarding to Taiwan and Israel?
The pro-Palestine community in Taiwan needs to up their game. They need to level up. They need sustained civil disobedience on a large scale. Shut down Kuching MRT. Shut it down. Break the law. Shut down the intersection of Heping and Roosevelt Road. Shut it down. Break the law. Get arrested. Get a ticket. Shut down Taipei Main Station. Shut down Taoyuan Airport. Demand that your government will not support genocide in your name. If you want independent news and commentary and more, this is the place. This is Risky Edges. My name is Andres Chang. We have no corporate sponsorship. We have no corporate money. It's just me, my tech guys. So please support us. Help us blow this up by smashing that like button, commenting, sharing, subscribing, turn on bell notifications. Thank you very much. Please support independent media. Thank you. Please support us on Patreon. We put nothing behind a paywall. So if you support us on Patreon, you are also helping those who can't support us on Patreon. Link in the description. Thank you.